What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Time. My name is Zach Hernandez, with my friends Matt Llewellyn and Scott Gielan. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Zach.
Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Today, guys, we're going to talk about the 49ers defense and whether or not it is due for a decline. Scott, they had a historically great year last season, specifically in their passing defense. Are they due for a decline?
I don't think necessarily. I think one of the things that's driven that has been kind of statistic stuff saying defense is an unstable thing. The 49ers have to regress because they were so good last season. And I think the only time you're kind of due to regress is when you're unsustainably good at, in defense's case, kind of a few different things probably. And I don't think there was really any point where the 49ers were unsustainably good at anything. The 49ers didn't have an unsustainably high pressure rate, which is quite a consistent statistic normally. If they can repeat their pressure rate, and if they can repeat their pressure rate with D Ford consistently healthy, then I think there's no reason to consider there'll be a drop off there. Interceptions and things like that may be kind of more touch and go, but their kind of QB schedule in the next season isn't the scariest quarterback schedule. So there's no reason to believe that they can't kind of similarly perform at a good level on defense in terms of turnovers. So, I mean, in terms of unsustainably high performance, I don't think they're in that kind of situation, which doesn't to me suggest that they should have to regress from where they were. And then it's just a question of kind of, is defense so unstable that they're bound to be worse? But you have to ask yourself, why is defense unstable? And it's unstable because unlike offense, which is primarily kind of driven by one position, there's more kind of constituent parts which have a higher degree of importance. So when people get injured, then you see instability because the quality of players dropped off. But in the 49ers case, they already dealt with a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. They missed both starting safeties, missed time, starting cornerback missed time, a starting linebacker missed time. They had defensive linemen were rotating through. There's not kind of the suggestion that they kind of can't play through injuries. And in fact, you'd actually argue, as Matt said in our previous show, that there's a decent chance that the 49ers are actually going to be luckier with injuries than they were last season, based again, that's just a luck thing. So if they're not going to be suffering because they're losing personnel, you're kind of questioning then, okay, so what else drives instability? Well, maybe departures. And I think the big question is what's going to happen with DeForest Buckner leaving? And are other players going to step into the breach? Are other players going to improve their performance? Or are we going to see a drop-off basically because DeForest Buckner has dropped out of the team? Because otherwise, in terms of other factors that can drive a decline in defensive performance, the 49ers look pretty well placed to kind of continue to play at a high level.
Matt, Scott touched on there, Matt. There wasn't really substantially high of a level play to where it should be too hard for them to follow up. Would you disagree on the fact that they were historically great in the pass defense? Isn't that kind of hard to follow up on, or at least repeat?
They were historically great on the pass defense, mainly because of that defensive line, keeping the pressure on quarterbacks. And for me, that's something, I mean, they lost Buckner, but replacing Buckner with Kinlaw and getting a healthy D Ford, to me, that's a wash. And I think that the defensive line is still going to be deep. You talk about injuries that Scott touched on. You talk about Ronald Blair injured, Kentavious Street injured, DJ Jones injured, D Ford couldn't stay healthy. Quan Alexander missed 8 or 9 weeks. You talk about Richard Sherman even missed a game. The defense got hit with so many injuries last year that even just a marginal improvement in, a lessening of games missed due to injury is going to, keep them right there. Also, we can't overlook the offense's effect on the defense. If the offense gets a little bit better with people like Brandon Ayuk coming in, year 2 of Deebo Samuel, maybe Jet McKinnon makes a splash there. Offensive line health, Kyle Juszczyk stays healthy. Again, George Kittle stays healthy. Then you're talking about an offense that's going to keep the ball, extend drives, keep the defense off the field, and keep them from getting gassed. And we all know what Robert Saleh likes to say, all gas, no brakes. If you have the gas in the tank, come the third and fourth quarter, they're going to continue to bully those offensive linemen and make them tired because, let's face it, the 49ers run 7-8 players deep on that defensive line once you consider all those players coming back from injury, and you can run people on a rotation. Now you're always rotating the fresh guy in, and you can sustain that pressure over the course of a game, and that's going to make the pass defense better. We do know that Richard Sherman did get picked on a little bit at the end, and maybe he's a little bit more reputation than he is absolute superstar, but he knows what he's doing. He's a high IQ player. Akella Witherspoon missed a bunch of time. If he can stay in there, keep his head right, not get too down on himself, because I do think that he does have confidence issues. He played well at times last year. And then, of course, Emmanuel Mosley is there. People forget about Tim Harris Jr., who had a redshirt year. He's going to be back. So there's plenty of players there that can make plays. You just want to see that, again, it's health. Health is a huge thing, and the 49ers got hit badly. So considering what they did last year at a historic level, considering the injuries they had, absolutely it's sustainable for me.
Okay. Yeah. This team has just been bitten by the injury bug year after year. It seems like, even going back to previous coaching, trees and coaching staffs, I don't know what it is. I remember they got rid of Mark Uyami, I believe is how you say his name. He was kind of their head of health and medical services, so to speak. And they got rid of him, thinking maybe it was something to do with him. But no, they just can't seem to escape the injury bug. For me, I don't think they're due for a decline, but I also wouldn't expect them to perform to as high of a standard as they did last season, even though their bread and butter is their defensive line, and even though they reinvested in their defensive line with Javon Kinlaw after shipping DeForest Buckner out to Indianapolis. It's still just a very high bar that they set. I wouldn't expect them to be nearly as high, but I do expect them to kind of come to the same level, so to speak. Scott, they, like I said, reinvested in the defensive line. Do you expect their sack numbers to go up, down, stay the same? How do you view their defensive line and their kind of impact on the game?
I actually think the sack numbers could go up. I don't. They weren't extraordinarily high last season. I think the pressure rate was good, but the sack numbers weren't kind of phenomenal. They weren't, when you look at the NFL sack table for teams, they weren't flying out in top. I think the key is that D Ford. I think when you look at the numbers with D Ford and without D Ford, it's a kind of a very, very different set of stats, basically, and you could see the impact on opposition teams of having to worry about his speed on the edge, and then that created a dilemma in how they were going to try and pass block. And I just think that the reality is, I think with the sack number as well, is with more healthy DBs, with Jimmy Ward back, I think that's huge on things like third down, because a lot of quarterbacks like to work kind of between the numbers on third down. With him being able to kind of drop down and play man-to-man in there, I think that's a big difference. I think they've still got K'Wan Williams. If Fred Warner takes another step, I mean, he's already went from like kind of a middling coverage linebacker to maybe one of, if not the best coverage linebacker in the NFL last season. You look at that team, you think quarterback's still going to be able to hold the ball, and the defensive line, if they're healthy, can, I think, actually improve on their sack numbers from last season.
That would be something to see, because they were all over the backfield last season. And, guys like Nick Bosa, D Ford, even Armstead, they were just blowing up every single play, it seemed like. Matt, same question to you, but swap out sacks for interceptions. No one guy really had a high number of interceptions. They were a really, really good secondary in terms of, defending passes, but nobody was really taking them back. Do you see that number, going up or going down?
It's not like they were huge in interceptions. I believe they had 10 in the regular season, somewhere around there. But to Scott's point, third down is going to be a big down for them. And because the 49ers can gain so much pressure just off of rushing down linemen, that they weren't a heavy blitzing team, which means you have more to put in the defensive backfield. Maybe a tip or two here goes a little bit better. Maybe it doesn't. I think that interceptions in conjunction with pass breakups is more important than just interceptions by itself. Yes, you want to force turnovers. Yes, you would like to do some of those things and get turnovers, get good field position, maybe turn it around. Those things will come. I know that forced fumbles was a big thing for them last year. That helped them out a lot. But again, being tied to these specific numbers, you want to see the unit work together as a whole. So sacks can go up. Maybe by sacks going up, there's more pressure around the quarterback. Maybe the quarterback gets a little more skittish, throws something he shouldn't, and in turn, interceptions go up. They're all interwoven into each other, and the better that one aspect plays, the more it raises up the other, and vice versa. So as long as the team can play at a consistently high level as in terms of effort, because we know they have the talent. It's just about the effort and not coming out flat as they did a couple of times this year, especially in first quarters where they would give up a long drive. Particularly the Rams game comes to mind. They had to get punched in the mouth before they said, okay, that's enough. So we know they can shut teams down. But having that consistent effort, having that smooth communication between the two, like Scott said, another step forward maybe from Fred Warner, who is turned out to be an incredible draft pick for the 49ers. Maybe an extra step forward by somebody like Dre Greenlaw, some who can take another step forward. Javon Kinlaw, who knows? He can come in. Maybe he's a plug and play guy right away. D Ford being healthy. All these things can combine together. And when the team and the personnel are together and playing well, then the stats are going to come one way or another.
I love that, they take Javon Kinlaw, 14 overall, and it's very rare that a guy is taken that high up and not much is expected of him his first year. I think that speaks to where this defense, and specifically this defensive line, is as a whole, that they could take a guy that early in the draft and they can essentially use that as a buffer year for him to get comfortable and then expect more out of him his sophomore year. I think the main points we touched on this though is health. They should be getting healthier, which is huge. 2, the bar wasn't set too high to the point that they can't replicate those that performance. 3, they're getting younger guys to kind of rotate in, and 4, some of these younger guys are having another year in the system. So, and most importantly, these things are interconnected. They're interwoven. Like you said, depends how the offense plays. Really, really impacts how the defense plays. If the offense is going 3 and out, throwing interceptions, that defense is winded. You can't expect them to come out there and be stout and shut down first, second, and third down every play. They need to get some rest. So a lot of these things are interconnected. Sacks, pressures turn into more interceptions or padded down passes. So all of these things kind of need to help each other out in all aspects. So exactly. I think we all agree. Yeah, I think we can all agree the defense isn't due for a decline, but they do have a lot on their plate that they need to kind of continue.
There's also one more important aspect that we need to look at. And this goes back to the earlier conversation about a make it, break it, maybe Super Bowl hangover year. There's 2 things. There's 2 mentalities that this team can come out with. They can come out like the Rams and defeated, or they can come out pissed off. And knowing Kyle Shanahan, this team is going to come out pissed off. Knowing Robert Saleh, they're going to come out pissed off. And a pissed off team with this much talent, league better watch out.
Yep, 100%. That's going to do it for us today, guys. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Our handles will be below on the screen. And make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
Click the bell for all your notifications. Go Niners.
Thanks, guys.